Two. Hello, everybody. It's Chris from TGIK Games, and today we are going to pick up on where we left off, which was what exactly is going on. And I think the last time we spoke, I was going to check out some Civ building games, which I did. I went to the Board Game Geek list of top Civ building games, and wow, that is not what I want at all. Yeah. So, not what I'm going for. So I think what we're going to do today is we're going to go back to basics and we're going to come up with potential actions. And we're just normally what I would do is I would just pace back and forth in my kitchen while I'm mumbling this all to myself. But since I'm sitting at my table and typing this out with and talking to you guys, we're just gonna kind of slog our way through this as best we can. So let's imagine. Oh, and I don't know if I said in the last video, but we're kind of ditching the idea of having two races because the players in the game are going to be natives on a planet, or maybe not natives. That might not be the right way to put it, but they're going to be two warring nations on a planet, and there's going to be, I don't know if I would call them peaceful, but they would be a third race, and that's who we are, the players. And we come across these two nations that are about to go to war, and or maybe not war, but we're going to call it war for now, just to make the terminology easy. We can always retheme it later, but the idea is that we could be working for both sides. We could be working for one side. Maybe players can work for both sides, but if they play too many cards on one side, they become suspects on the other side. That's not bad. I kind of like that one. So, all right, let's just work this out. We as a random neutral race, we show up, or a neutral nation, we show up, and there is a conflict going on. And what are the kinds of things that we can do? We can gather information. We could even spell information, right? We can gather information. What else can we do? We can move information. Gather information. I walk over to Nation A and I ask them a question. I get some sort of information. We can provide information. Do we want to have any sort of direct actions, like military orders? Do we want to give players give players expanded? Let's see. Expanded actions if they get more involved with a nation. Give players expanded actions if they get more involved with a nation. That seems like it's a bit more than I want for this game, but it's a good note to have. It's something to keep around for a potential expansion. Give players expanded action if they... okay. What else can we do? So I'm going to go over to Nation A. I'm going to get information. Then I have to travel back. I have to give that information back over. Why am I interested in moving information? What actions can I take in neutral territory? I think these will be creep actions. So the idea is that the neutral nation that we play as, that's going to be that will be the creep nation. Will be the creep nation. Some players are going to have creep goals, and that means players are going to have to be able to play creep cards. Okay. Some players will have creep goals, that sounds like it could go in a lot of bad places. Creeper goals, squad goals. Anyway, some players will have creep goals, which means they will have to play creep cards. What about how do players play cards in secret? Do they play cards in secret? Is that even a thing right now? I don't know. Is this even a thing? What else? What else? Oh, play creep cards. Play creep cards. This will be spawn things of some sort. Okay. Nations are going to need actions as well. Nations are going to need actions. If we go with a war theme, there could be a ground war, ground battle, sea battle, air battle. Then we have to get into things like large-scale combat, or some really simplified version of, what am I trying to say? Some really simplified version of combat. I don't like combat in games, not only just for my own personal feelings about conflict, but combat is such a tough mechanic for me to play with because I find other mechanics allow for better play and explore within the mechanic, not only from a design point of view, but also as a gamer point of view. And combat just isn't interesting. Now, in Chaosmos, we played interesting. That's interesting because players have incentive to go after everybody. And if you're left alone for 3-4 turns, then you have a chance to kind of replace your cards and look for cards that work against a powerful enemy. And that I like, but I don't think that style of combat's going to fit in this game. So we move on. Ground battle, sea battle, air battle. I mean, there's infrastructure. But this is turning into a war game, and I don't want that, or that's not the feel I want to go for. So these ideas are going to stick around, but we're gonna look elsewhere for a while. And you might be thinking, why am I just typing as I talk? Well, I'm essentially taking notes about my game idea in front of you. And this is, if I wasn't typing these notes out, I'd be making little notations in my notebook as I was writing it down, which is the way I used to do this. So I know this might seem like it's a bit doing two things at once, but the two things are the same time. But this is how I design games. So and you get to come along for the ride. So that's kind of how it is. Let's see. Maybe it doesn't have to be air and sea. Maybe it can just be columns. Columns like, think Seven Wonders Duel with the battle mechanic. I mean, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but the important part is the icon or piece moves from one side to the other. and when the other side gets there, side completes victory. Oh, okay. So what if, let's just say there are 4 rows, 4 columns of which in which battle is taking place, and each side is trying to push. Well, let's call it 5. We'll make it an odd number. Each side is trying to push 3 of those rows across the board. If so, that's their motivation. They're trying to get the piece across, and then in the middle, if their motivation is the creep, then they're actually trying to push both sides out. And I would say creep probably really only has to win one of these columns. It's almost like creep has to invade the bases, and if creep invades the bases, then it wins. Oh, and then you can have tokens that move up and down each row. Okay, okay. Tokens are going to move up and down one of, well, no. Up and down 5 different rows. The goal is to get a token into the enemy's base. And enemies? Enemies? Apparently I don't know how to spell enemies. Oh, well yeah, I guess the base does belong to them, right? Okay. Token into the enemy's base. Or you could also say trying to get a unit over into their nation, but we're just going to call it bases because that makes more sense in my head. Okay, so the goal is to get a token into the enemy's base. If players are motivated to work for one side, well, okay, I think that's a bit obvious. Players who are fighting for the creep want to win one row and get creep spread into both bases. I think something that we'll have to keep in mind is to help players that are trying to win for the creep, there's going to have to be a way for players to play in the powerful creep row. Now, the thing is, when players move from one side to another, I think they're going to play a creep card. And the obvious thing to do will always be play in the most powerful creep row, or else you're going to give yourself up. What's the penalty for your identity being given up? Probably you can't play cards for any other side. So as long as you have a pass, you can get anywhere on the board. Okay. Probabil. Sounds like a drug company name. I know I said before I wasn't concerned with typos, but I don't know. Something about YouTube makes me concerned about typos. Okay, so what is the penalty for your identity being given up? Also, identity. So here's my concern of thinking about that. At any given time, well, you always have a 1 in 3 shot of being correct. So there's going to have to be a way for players to actually have to work to figure out who you are. Could you change allegiances? No, I don't like that. Maybe that's a solution, but I don't like it off the top of my head. Well, all right. Well, let's not worry about the specifics right now. But to identify a player's team, it's to be more difficult than a 1 in 3 chance. Ask Aiden about this. Okay, so stables of the game, player goals. I think what I want to do now, cards, actions, cubes on the board. Board, low priority. Here we go. Okay, so the board's going to be 5 rows, and each nation, each side, is trying to get into the other's base. What about bases have hit points, and bases have hit points. One team, nations will start, well, each base will start a number on a row. So let's say in the middle row, base B sends a token worth 5 points, and they're trying to move that token across the board. If that token makes it across the board untouched, base A will lose 5 hit points. Okay, I like that. Right, I don't want this in the to-do list, so I'm just, let's see, general notes, theme possibilities. You know what? Let's go with gameplay. Okay. Bases are trying to send units of power across the board in the different rows. Each team is trying to figure out how to best defend against these units moving across the board. I mean, now you can turn it into something like, well, I was going to say something like power moving across power cables, but then you wouldn't have creep in the middle. Yeah, we got to stick with an actual geographical type thing. Okay. Each team is trying to figure out how to best defend against these units moving across the board. Okay, if a unit makes it across, the value of that unit is subtracted from the base's hit points. Now, subtracted from the base's hit points. Okay, so I send a unit across. Let's say it's a yellow unit. Base A sends a yellow unit across. Base B sends what across? I mean, could it be a wall? Could it be a defender? A defender, that sounds too boring to me. Could it be... I don't know. It's not coming to me. I like the concept, and it's the kind of thing I need to think about a little bit more. But at least the note is here. Okay, so bases are trying to send units of power across the board in different rows. Each team is trying to figure out how to best defend against these units moving across the board. Got it. If a unit makes it across the board. Okay, so there's the basics for the game. These units are played face down. Now here's where we come into players. Players are trying to get a look at the different units that are coming down the pipe. Does this mean units need to be a deck of cards? I don't know. Okay, so here's the general idea. I go over to side B, and I want side A to win. I go over to side B, and I play a card that allows me to look at the top 3 cards of the unit deck. And let's say there are 10 cards, 2 for each row. So I know that a blue, green, and red unit are coming next. Okay. I can go back over to the A side, or whatever side I'm on. I can go back to the other side, and I can say, I can play a card that will allow me to look through their deck and find a blue, green, and red card, and I can put them on standby. So maybe there would have to be some sort of standby area, maybe? Okay, so I go over to base B, play a card, and see the next 3 units are red, green, blue. Sorry, I'm going to short that one. No, don't shorthand, Chris. Red, green, blue. I go back to the A base to give to set up the defense because I want side A to win. Okay. There needs to be a standby area or a defense area. There needs to be a standby area, defense area. Okay. Not sure how creep comes in at this point. And I also haven't gotten into how action points are going to matter. I don't know if it's going to be cubes that you pick up as you play. I don't know. But we're getting to the point where we need to put a cut in here. So, okay. So to-do list. Let's go to the to-do list. What are we going to do for next time? Please? Can I? Thank you. All I want is my keyboard to work. I don't think that's too much to ask. Watch some Civ building. Well, we've gone a long way from Civ building, haven't we? When stuck, build the backstory. Yep, I don't know if I talked about that last time, but when I get stuck in a design, I'll just start building a backstory to go with the world I've attached. If I've attached a world. If I haven't, it's probably an abstract, and I'll just skip it and go to a different game and come back later. But building backstory can really help build some motivations for why is one side doing another. Like we talked about a little earlier when I said, why as a third race do I even care what the heck is going on? Well, I care because these 2 warring bases have to go through our homeland to do what they want to do, and I don't want that to happen if the creep happens to be the side I want to win. Or if I decide, okay, well, I'm going to go with base A, and I've decided that they're the ones that are going to win, then I mean, it's really Revolutionary War if you think about it, but if I can untheme it from that close to war, then the better. So anyway, okay. Notes for next video. What are we doing next video? We are we really need to come up with actions for players to take. I think that is the primary. In fact, I think that's so important. I think that's what we'll focus on entirely. Focus on this completely. Why did I say completely? Because spelling entirely is going to get ugly. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.